From KETK, you're watching East Texas Live.
Welcome back in, everybody. Thanks for joining us here on East Texas Live. We've got Michael and Tammy with the Oakwood Cemetery Restoration Committee. We're talking about some history plus an upcoming nighttime tour. Good morning, and thanks for being with us.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Well, absolutely glad that y'all are here with us this morning. Before we dive into this tour, let's talk a little bit about the history of Oakwood Cemetery.
Wow, I appreciate you asking. You really can't separate the history of Tyler from the cemetery because it's the oldest and most historic cemetery within the city limits. Founded in 1849 by a gentleman by the name of John Lawler, who donated the original 5 acres and deeded it to the city. So since its very creation, the cemetery has always been owned by the city of Tyler. And over the years it expanded, particularly during the wars that have come and gone over the years. In 1900, the city changed the name from Lawler Cemetery, which it was known as previously, to City Cemetery. And then starting in 1904, they changed it to the formal name we have today of Oakwood Cemetery. We have over 3,000 graves, and the cemetery has now grown to over 20 acres in size from the original 5 acres that Mr. Lawler donated. And there's some number of graves there that highlight really the history of Tyler itself.
Well, and there is a lot of history when it comes to cemeteries, too. I think people maybe don't want to dig into it as much because it can get a little bit morbid there, which kind of brings us to one of the topics while you're here today. You're hosting a fun new event this year. Tell us a little about what's going on there.
Yeah, well, historically, we've done a Spirits of Oakwood tour each year during the Azalea Trail in connection with that great event that goes on each spring. And I, as a member of the board, I've been encouraged them to also consider moving it to the fall when I feel like more people might have an interest in visiting our historic cemeteries. And this is the first year the board agreed. We're part of the Oakwood Restoration Board. It's a city-funded board. But what I was going to show you is the board agreed to move it to October. And so we picked the Saturday closest to Halloween. It's very important for everybody to understand this is not a haunted house. This is not something where people would jump out and scare you. It's a nighttime historic tour of the cemetery, lit up by luminaries, so it's a beautiful setting. And you're going to visit 6 spirits that will, in costume, portray those that are buried there and really share with you the history of the life of that person while at the same time sharing with us the history of Tyler itself. There are lots of notable graves buried out there, and we're excited to share that with. My wife, Tammy, knows a few of those that are out there. The cemetery thought she might share that.
Well, as you walk through the cemetery, I mean, you see Tyler. You see the names on stones that you drive by those streets every day. And these are the people that are behind those names, so it's really interesting. But for the tour tomorrow, we've highlighted 6, all ages and backgrounds for these that we've picked. We call them encore spirits because they have been so enamored by previous tour goers that we wanted to highlight them tomorrow on our first nighttime tour.
Well, and I think it's probably also important to note, because you mentioned how this is going to be structured. It's not something that's going to be scary and pop out, haunted house type. It's also very important to be respectful on this tour.
Absolutely.
As well.
You got it, exactly. And also we want it to be very family friendly. So people can bring their young ones and not have to worry about, having them be frightened. It's an incredibly interesting environment to be in, but it's definitely not meant to be, like I said, a haunted house. There are places people can go for that. This is more of a historical tour and a reflection on who we are as a people here in Tyler.
All right, we got about 30 seconds left, so really quickly, is there an admission price for this? And give us the rundown of what time and when this is happening one more time.
$10 per person, cash, or we do have an electronic availability. It is at 5 o'clock for a tour, also at 7 o'clock for a tour. So people can option to come to one of those, and they'll get a chance to rotate through all 6 spirits. If you want more information, oakwoodcemeterytyler.com would be where you would go to find that, or there's also information on the City of Tyler website.
And then really quickly, just one more nugget. That money goes to an important part of the cemetery.
It does. It helps to restore the cemetery. It helps to replace tombstones, repair tombstones, other work that's needed.
All right. Well, perfect. We will get this information listed over on KETK.com. Of course, it's such a cool event that they're going to be hosting. We appreciate y'all being on with us this morning.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Stick around, guys. We've got more East Texas Live coming up in just a few minutes. Stay with us.